Welcome to Happy Aura, a calm space in a loud world. Slow down, breathe deep, and enjoy wisdom. There is a quiet wisdom that whispers through the ages, one that often gets buried beneath the noise of our hurried lives. But do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. The phrase is simple, almost deceptively so, yet within it lies an entire philosophy, a way of standing upright in the storm of life, refusing to be dragged under by fears that are not yet real. The human mind is a powerful creator. With a single thought, it can bring to life entire worlds, visions of beauty, triumph, and love. But the same mind can also turn against itself, weaving shadows of doubt and fear that feel heavier than reality. How often do we sit in the quiet of the evening, replaying conversations, imagining what others think of us, constructing scenes of failure, disgrace, or loss. We write scripts for futures that may never come, and in doing so, we suffer twice, once in imagination, and once, perhaps, in reality. But most of the time, those imagined catastrophes never arrive. They dissolve like mist when morning light touches them. Still, we pay their toll in advance, draining our energy, our joy, and our courage. Fear rarely arrives as a thunderclap. More often, it whispers, "What if you fail? What if you lose? What if they leave? What if tomorrow brings only pain?" The tyranny of what if is subtle. It persuades us to tighten our shoulders, clench our jaws, prepare endlessly for wars that will never be fought. We mistake vigilance for wisdom, anxiety for foresight, but living in perpetual anticipation of disaster blinds us to the grace of the present moment. Life is uncertain. That is the only certainty we have. But uncertainty is not the same as doom. It is possibility. It is openness. It is the blank page before the poem is written. When we surrender to what if, we forget that the unknown also holds joy, reunion, discovery, and beauty. Nature has no dark imaginings. The tree does not fear the coming winter. It simply sheds its leaves. The bird does not despair over storms. It learns to ride the currents of the wind. The ocean does not shrink from the tempest. It holds both calm and fury in its endless depths. We, too, are creatures of nature, though we forget it often. The lesson is clear. Life moves in cycles, and not every shadow signals permanent night. Fearful thoughts tell us that winter will last forever, that storms will sink us, that the night will not yield to dawn. But this is not the truth of the world. Dark imaginings are not prophecies. They are only clouds of the mind. Like clouds, they can pass when we do not cling to them. It takes courage to refuse despair. Not the loud courage of warriors or heroes, but the quiet courage of the soul that says, "I will not let this fear define me." This courage does not mean denying pain or pretending that suffering does not exist. Life will bring sorrow, illness, betrayal, and death. But life also brings laughter, healing, loyalty, and birth. To To cling only to one side of the truth is to live half a life. Refusing to distress yourself with dark imaginings is not naive optimism. It is disciplined clarity. It is choosing not to live in a story that has not yet been written. Our suffering often comes from two places: memory and anticipation. Memory says, "Look what happened before. It will happen again." Anticipation says, "Look what might happen. It will destroy you." Both voices are distortions. Memory is selective. It recalls pain more sharply than joy, because survival taught us to notice danger first. Anticipation exaggerates, painting every uncertain horizon with storms. But in truth, the present moment is where life unfolds. The breath you draw right now, the sound around you, the small sensations of being alive, these are not touched by imagined disasters. Even in hardship, the present moment holds something real to steady you. When you feel yourself sinking into dark imaginings, return to the ground beneath your feet, the rhythm of your breathing, the pulse of life in your chest. Here is where reality lives, not in the stories of what might be. We are not meant to walk through the labyrinth of the mind alone. Fear isolates, whispering that no one else could understand. But every human being knows the torment of imagined suffering. In this, we are deeply united. Speak your fears aloud to a friend, and you will notice their shadows shrink. Share your burden, and it becomes lighter. Sometimes, the simple presence of another person, without solutions, without judgment, is enough to bring you back to the truth that you are not abandoned to your thoughts. When you see another tormented by dark imaginings, offer your presence, not to argue against their fears, but to remind them that they are not alone in carrying them. In companionship, fear loses much of its power. How, then, do we free ourselves from dark imaginings? It is not by force. To wrestle with them often gives them more strength. Instead, practice release. Notice the fearful thought. Name it gently. This is worry. This is fear. Acknowledge it without judgment. And then let it drift away like a leaf floating downstream. This is a practice, not a one-time victory. The mind will return to its habit of creating shadows. But with practice, you will learn to step back, to breathe, to allow thoughts to pass without becoming entangled in their nets. Meditation, prayer, journaling, walking in nature, all of these are tools for release. They remind you that you are not your thoughts. You are the one who watches them, the one who can let them go. At the heart of refusing dark imaginings lies trust. Trust that you have endured before and will endure again. Trust that life has meaning even when it is not clear. Trust that there are hands seen and unseen that hold you through the storm. Trust does not erase suffering, but it gives you the strength to meet it without being destroyed. To trust is to say, even if the worst happens, I will not abandon myself. I will not lose sight of the light, even in the depths of night. Imagine the life you could live if fear loosened its grip. How many joys do we deny ourselves because we are too busy preparing for disaster? How many relationships remain shallow because we are afraid of heartbreak? How many dreams die before birth because we cannot silence the voice of what if? To refuse dark imaginings is to reclaim your freedom. It is to dance in the sunlight, even knowing that storms may come. It is to speak your truth, even if rejection is possible. It is to love, fully aware that loss is part of love's price. This is not recklessness, it is wisdom. For no amount of fear can protect us from pain, but it can rob us of joy. Why pay in advance for suffering that may never arrive? The night will always have its shadows. The future will always hold uncertainty. But the human spirit is vast enough to meet both without surrendering to despair. So when the dark imaginings rise within you, when they whisper their false prophecies, when they paint the horizon in storms, remember this: you are not required to believe them. You are not required to suffer twice. You can choose to return to the present, to breathe, to trust, to live. And in that choice lies your freedom. But do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. Carry this phrase as a lantern. Let it guide you when the path feels unclear. Let it remind you that most shadows are illusions, and that even in the deepest night, the dawn is already on its way.